You're watching the New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more information and articles about at-scale technologies, please visit thenewstack.io. Now enjoy the show. Hi, Edith. How are you?
It's great to see you, Alex.
Good to see you. Edith Harbaugh, CEO of LaunchDarkly. And Edith, you are here for a talk you're giving tomorrow, but I guess you're just here for the event. Did you check out the keynote today?
I did not. I actually flew in this morning.
Yeah, you'll hear all about it here with the show. But it's nice to have you here to talk about, where we are right now and kind of the state of progressive delivery. I'm very curious in getting your thoughts on how far we've come. When we started the New Stack, I was learning about canary deployments on containers, and I was learning about feature flags, like kind of the work that you did. And now we're kind of in this time where we're starting to think about AI native approaches, and the cloud native, approaches are still very healthy and still very vital to the work that we do. But AI native approaches are moving in fast, and so I'm curious on how you think about those operation patterns, and how you're thinking about them while they're still baking out, so to speak. So I'd like to get into that. So I'm just curious on your thoughts. How is it working kind of in a transition time? Because this really is kind of a middle time that we're in. I call it the messy middle.
I call it the fun time.
Yeah, messy can be a lot of fun.
So for some context, I'm the co-founder and CEO of LaunchDarkly.
Yep.
Co-founded the company in 2014, and our mission statement on our very first website was launch, measure, and control software.
Yeah.
And the world of 2014 was very different in hindsight.
Yes.
I'd been a product manager at TripIt, which was a mobile travel app that was #1 in the App Store. And I took it for granted that everybody was releasing multiple times a week. And at TripIt, we were even releasing multiple times a day or an hour because we needed to keep up with changes in how people were using us. The world of 2014 was completely different.
Yeah.
Everybody was not, as I assumed, on the cloud.
Right.
I assumed that everybody was cloud native. I assumed that everybody was agile because I was.
Right.
When I got out of my own bubble, everybody was still very much in a mode of let's release once a quarter, and maybe we should think about the cloud.
Right. Once a quarter.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were like, well, we try once a quarter. It's actually once or twice a year. So the questions we got when we started were, well, where's your on-prem version?
Right. Yeah.
And why would I want to release more than what I do right now?
Oh, wow.
Gartner had come out with this whole even thesis around bimodal development, that if you're a bank, you should try to do as few releases as possible. Which now you're chuckling because you're like, this seems wild, but that was the state back then.
Yeah.
So what's changed over the last 10 years is now if you tell, if somebody comes and says, hey, my goal is to release once a quarter, like that's, what do you do with your life?
Yeah. What are you doing with all your time?
and even beyond that, if somebody says I'm not on the cloud, it's you're the oddball now.
Yeah. Are you on the edge?
Yeah. So what's changed is cloud is now here.
Yeah.
If you were here from AWS ReInvent, and if you're here in person, it's literally hard to walk around.
Yeah.
Like everybody is here, and they take it for granted.
Yeah.
So now there's this next wave coming, which is AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the interesting thing about AI is it still fits into the original mission of LaunchDarkly. We help people launch, measure, and control software.
I love that. It's so clear. And it's still very true.
And the way I look at it is software used to be much harder. Like in 2014, if you wanted to build something, you had to find a developer to build it.
Mm-hmm.
you had to find a box.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people loved AWS is instead of having to pay for a box and provision it, you could just spin up AWS.
Yeah, the boxes was available.
But you still had this bottleneck of developers.
Yeah.
With AI, it's much easier to code than it ever was before.
Right.
But one of our advisors put it. He said, "It's much easier to code. It's still hard to get good code."
Right. Right. So, okay, so now it's easier to code. But you can provision very easily across AWS.
Yes.
What is challenging you're seeing about AI now for people who who maybe have been slow to adapt to the cloud, and now they're seeing AI and thinking they need to think about this a little bit more. But there's all these kinds of choices they have to make. They have to, if they really are going to build out workloads, they have to think about GPUs, and there's all kinds of GPUs that they have to think about. There's all kinds of differences, but I'm curious on what the differences are in progressive delivery then.
Yeah. So progressive delivery is a term that I'll credit James Governor for really popularizing.
Yeah.
It's this idea that I talked before about, you used to do a quarterly release.
Yeah.
That now you could do releases whatever you want. So for LaunchDarkly, we have 5,000 plus customers worldwide.
Right.
And they have all different styles of delivery.
Right.
Like, for example, if you're in a regulated industry like in banking, you might only want to release once a month,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to have different sets of code queued up, tested, ready to go, so that when a regulator gives you the green light, you can just switch it on.
Yeah.
We have other folks who are a lot more fluid, who are in consumer industries, who literally want to release, several times an hour.
Right. Right.
I just visited a customer in London, and they are releasing, dozens of times a day. And I asked what was driving it. They're like, well, everything is behind. Everything. As soon as something is ready, we start rolling out to different customers. So the way they use progressive delivery is they have different bands of beta customers, people in different regions, where they could quickly launch it, see how it's doing, and then roll back or roll forward.
Mm-hmm. So, one more thing we're seeing right now is you call it the fun times, right? This time we're in right now. I've described it as the Middle Ages a little bit. We're kind of moving into the Renaissance, right? In some respects, I've called it the messy middle. I mean, but it's all I can think like a time of transition, right? Do you agree with that?
I think it's fun because I keep coming back to the reason why people code is to produce value.
Yeah.
Code is not there to just be judged by lines of code or beauty.
Yeah.
Code is there to create value for your end customers. And with AI, it is easier than ever to produce it. You don't have to memorize a lot of esoteric things. You can rely on something like Copilot or Claude to do a lot of the things that used to be clunky.
So, yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. So where is this, what's the kind of the state of AI infrastructure management and monitoring now? How do you see it?
Well, I could talk about how LaunchDarkly does it. So we're a vendor, just to be upfront.
Yeah.
We have a product called AI Configs, where we allow our customers to test different LLMs. So, for example, if you want to test different LLMs and see how they perform versus your own business metrics, we allow you to do that in a controlled environment.
Why'd you start there?
Why not?
Yeah.
It seemed like an obvious thing for us because, we have a built-in A/B testing engine. And, so a thing we usually allow our customers to do is, for example, test different backends, different throughputs. And in some ways, in AI, it's just a different backend.
So you're speaking tomorrow. What's the topic again?
Bridging the gap between speed and stability.
So how does that relate to what you're seeing today in the market with the fast emergence of generative AI and agentic AI?
Yeah. So with 5,000 customers worldwide, we see a huge spectrum of how people want to move. There's people who are, a 20-person startup with very few customers,
Right.
who just want to move at the speed of light,
Right. Yeah.
faster if they could.
Yeah.
And then there's also customers who are in much more regulated industries where a mistake could be a huge deal.
Right.
It's not okay to have something slip if this is somebody's pension fund.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have different sets of concerns about how fast they want to move and what sort of guardrails they want around AI.
Right. Right. So those guardrails may vary,
Yes.
yeah.
So one of the things that LaunchDarkly does is we have a product called guarded releases, where you can set up metrics, and if something is triggered, you can automatically roll back a feature.
So rollback's alive and well,
Yeah, rollback never went away.
and it never will go away.
I mean, don't you ever want to undo something?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, how do you undo a data model then versus code?
Well, a data model is
You got to version it.
Yeah, you got to version it.
Yeah.
But the idea of a guarded release is that if there's any unit of functionality, you have an old and a new. We actually allow you to not just have an old and a new, but an old, new. So you have like n different versions.
New. That's good. That's a good one. I like that.
And then you can, if one is doing better, you can select that one to roll forward, and then always have a stable one that you could roll back to.
Okay.
And a push I usually get when I talk about this is, isn't that more overhead that can't I just do the new one?
Yeah.
And I say, if you've been in development for a while, isn't it nice to have the old one just in case?
Yeah. Yeah. The backup almost, but.
Yeah, like when you buy a new pair of shoes, I like to keep the old ones for a day.
What's different about data modeling versioning versus just code versioning?
It's just trickier.
What's trickier about it?
Do you want a long explanation or a short explanation?
If we've got time.
All right. The harder thing about a data model is if you're also ingesting data. So it's not just the data model, it's if you're in a live running environment. So like, for example, if you're, let's give a simple example. If you're a consumer web app and you're registering customers.
Right.
And you change the data model, you have to have some period of time where you're registering people in both versions, and then you get comfort with the new version, or you say, hey, this new version is not working. There's something wrong with it. I want to keep the old. But you have to make sure that you have the data in both places during that cutover so that you don't have data loss.
Ah. So it requires you to replicate
Yes.
a bit.
Yes. So it's trickier. There's more overhead involved versus just saying like, hey, I'm having a 3-page flow versus a 2-page flow.
So that problem will scale over time, won't it? I mean, because there'll be more models people use, and they'll use more agents and everything. And so how does that approach scale? Is it just kind of a similar approach to how you scale, versioning in terms of rolling back?
I think this is an interesting one that really gets down to what customers are trying to do.
Yeah.
At some point they have to say, here's what I'm actually comfortable
Yeah.
doing. If you have infinite versions, it does get hard to maintain that.
Yeah. Because what gets harder about it? What is it that you find is difficult in that situation?
Dependencies.
Mm-hmm.
Dependencies on external systems, and also that interchange.
Yeah. Interchange of the data.
Yeah.
Or
But I don't want to. I want to talk about what's good about this, not just the.
yeah, I'm thinking about kind of. I mean, that's the fun part, right? That's that's kind of the part where it gets interesting. But yeah, so what are the actual upsides that you're thinking about?
So usually what we encourage customers to do is have a thesis or an idea that they're trying to test, and have it well formulated in that way they can encapsulate it in a feature, and then have a process where they're like, I'm releasing it, and then there's the immediate step of, does it fall over, go thud,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually pretty apparent. Then there's a stage of observing and action, make sure that it's functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And then we like to call it iteration of, hey, is it actually meeting my business goals?
Okay.
Which I'm sure you've seen many times in software. Sometimes you ship something and it's just DOA, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So those are easy to say, okay, we're not going to move forward with this. There's the ones that you want to get on the field and get some more data around, and then you want to iterate on it and see what you can improve.
Okay. And so, what is the fun part you see in your business and how it's affecting how you think about product development?
The fun part to me is that, as I said before, like 10 years ago, I was still trying to convince people that it was better to release more.
Yeah.
You know, there was this idea that if I only release once a quarter, it's more stable,
Right.
where I feel like the opposite is true.
Right.
If you only release once a quarter, it's a very tense and scary moment. You know, because there's so much wrapped up into that release, and when you push it, you're nervous about how it's going to go. Versus if you're pushing features, as I said, like once a day, once a week,
Yeah.
there's a lot more, I'd say, kind of flow state,
Yeah.
and also a lot more feedback loop with customers. So what's changed now is that people, I think for the most part, have accepted that hey, it's actually more stable if we release more often.
So one thing you were talking about before we did the interview, before we started the interview, you mentioned how it took a long time for the cloud to develop. And like you're mentioning, back in 2014, people weren't thinking about releases like they do now. But you're saying the AI has been, the AI era is moving very, very fast. Well, how do you balance that in your own mind?
I think the shift to the cloud was the shift away from packaged software to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
There are all sorts of processes that were built up for good reasons around if you're shipping a physical disk to a store and somebody has to install it on their own hardware, you have to get that disk right because you can't go back and fix that disk. You can only ship a service pack and hope that somebody takes it.
Right.
So there was all sorts of engineering practices built up to make sure that like this golden disk is what we used to call it was perfect.
Right.
Yeah, because if once it's in somebody's hands, that's what they're using.
That's it is, yeah.
So I think Salesforce started breaking down that barrier of, hey, you don't have to take a disk. You could trust our servers.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed wild at the time. You know, they had the whole no software.
Yeah.
What they meant was not no software, but no
packaging.
No packaging. But even when it got off of a physical disk, there's all sorts of legacy processes built around people were installing on their own hardware.
Yeah.
You know, so you would have, this is, I used to work at Vignette, so you need to have like Vignette 6.0.2.b.
Yeah.
And somebody would have to come and download and install.
Yeah.
So when we truly moved to the cloud and like it became SaaS, that went away.
Yeah.
But it took a while for engineering processes to catch up to this new model of, hey, we don't really have dot releases anymore. The customer sees what the customer sees. And now with AI, I think it's even faster because AI could give you non-deterministic results at any time.
Right.
Which is, I'd say, sometimes not great.
Right. Yeah, and that brings up to me like, there's been established practices, for instance, for deploying microservices, right? But now there are ways to deploy AI agents. And so how do you think about those distinctions between deterministic microservices, for instance, versus agentic AI, which are non-deterministic and have all those different dynamics that you were alluding to?
It comes back to launch measure control. What LaunchDarkly has always done is giving you, hey, we're going to help you measure how that software does. And for us, an agent is basically just another set of software.
Okay.
So it's like, okay,
You just treat it very simply.
well,
Try to, like in in your explanation.
Yeah, in terms of like, hey, you're expecting these metrics from performance. You're expecting it to deliver within this time. You're expecting it to give these results. And if you are seeing anomalies from the way an agent is performing, that's something that you should pay attention to.
Right. So there's a level of intelligence that comes with agentic AI. So you need to take those outcomes into consideration.
Yes, but you always had outcomes. It's just they could get triggered much faster with an
But
agent.
there were outcomes that were binary, right?
Well, they could be in a range. You could say like, hey, I expect an answer within 3 to 6 seconds to this question.
Right. So do your traditional tools still work the same in AI environments then? Or are there ways that you're adapting your tools to work in AI workload environments? Or is it the same approach that you've had since the start of your company?
We're trying to do some things that are custom built. So one of my coworkers is actually giving a talk on AI configs, just a deep dive into how it can help you understand the way your AI models are working and safeguard against hallucinations and making sure that you are getting the business results that you want.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about reliability, for instance, how do you consider the nuances of reliability in AI, in AI workloads? Curious on what you think about that. I mean, reliability in software is, there can be a range of outcomes, right? There can, but you generally, because they are deterministic, you generally know that if, what they're going to do. With AI workloads, do you need to then tie back to the deterministic systems to make sure that what the agent is doing is reliable, or is it something else that you're thinking about? I'm just thinking about how your views on reliability are changing.
I think reliability is the same as it always was, in that it's not one metric.
Yeah.
Like reliability, you could say, does it respond within a certain amount of time? You could say, does it give an accurate result? Does it give a precise result? And the fact that it's being driven by an AI is still, I'd say, makes it that there might be more throughput through it, but you still are worrying about the same things.
Okay. I have a whole list of questions here. Maybe I'll give you a choice of questions that, and you can decide what you want to answer. So, one is on GPUs and how they're still more like pets than cattle, right? And I'm curious about feature flag infrastructure with GPU orchestration. Does it change at all? Does it, are there differences in the model serving layers? Is this creating new requirements for flag evaluation performance? I've just been doing research, and these are the kind of things that are coming up. So that's one question, possibility. I'm curious on your research too. Like, what are the patterns you're starting to see, with new AI workloads? Are there new kind of approaches you're trying because you're seeing different types of patterns in workloads that are emerging? And how do we get beyond just putting Band-Aids on things, right? So that's your choice of questions. Or you can answer all three of them.
Yeah, so the things I'm really excited about are things that are on a roadmap that aren't live yet.
Okay.
So I'm going to caveat with these are concepts and not
Yes, right.
not
Yeah.
in production yet. But the things I'm really excited about are the ideas around truly self-healing and self-optimizing software.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked about how you can detect reliability and roll back.
Yeah.
What would be the next step beyond that is to detect what went wrong and to have generated code based on the error ready to check in. For example, if you're getting a lot of errors in a certain browser, you say, hey, this is just not working on this version of Android.
Yeah.
Fire off an agent to go do a fix.
Yeah.
Check it in.
Yeah.
Roll it out.
Yeah.
and have that all be automatic,
Yeah.
like with very little human intervention. Because you could say, you could detect, hey, this is really failing on, this new version of iOS or whatever, and let me as an agent go and find a fix, check it in, roll it out.
Yeah.
Truly self-healing.
Yeah.
And then I also get excited about ideas like scanning tickets, scanning what's coming in from the field, and then again automating that analysis, and again automatically feeding that out into code and having it start rolling out.
Mm-hmm.
A simple example is like if you are seeing a lot of chatter that like, hey, I would love this to be in Spanish or Chinese.
Right.
To have an agent localize it.
That's quite disruptive, isn't it?
But isn't it fun?
Yeah, it's very fun. Yeah, but it's like localization software, for instance, a whole category of software out there.
But I think that's one of those things that AI can be extremely cheap and accurate on.
Yeah.
Localization has historically been very manual.
Yeah.
But with AI, I think that's one of those things that can become very automated.
Yeah, it translates very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of DevOps automation that still needs to happen, isn't there?
Yes. I think that there's a layer that I think LaunchDarkly plays that very well, which is just at the feature level.
Yeah.
Of just optimizing software. If you're getting a lot of requests from coming in through your support system, that you can automatically start generating code around it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fun way to end, perhaps, on that note, and thinking through to the next dimension of where we are now. I'm curious on where do you see us in the next 12 months or 18 months? Where do you see LaunchDarkly?
I really hope that we continue on our current path of, we've always empowered developers to move faster with less risk.
Yeah.
And the analogy I say is that there's just more code than ever. Like what used to take, an engineer several weeks to write.
Yeah.
Can now get written in an afternoon.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the tedium and toil has been stripped away.
Yeah.
But I compare this to the leap perhaps from having to write in assembly language to being able to write in a modern language.
Yeah.
There's just as many coders as ever.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you don't have to code in assembly language does not mean that there's less coders.
Yeah.
So the fact that we have all these AI-powered agents, tools, shortcuts, what have you, does not mean that there'll be less creativity or less engineers. Mm-hmm. Another analogy I give is, there was a world before spreadsheets, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there was, yeah.
Where you used to have a slide rule and there were more people in Wall Street after spreadsheets than before. For good or for bad.
That's a great way to end things, I think. Edith, thank you very much for taking the time. It's been an interesting discussion. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to catch up with you.
You too.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.